A few weeks ago, we talked about happiness. Happiness can feel elusive nowadays, can't it? But we all know people who are happy even in the most difficult circumstances. What makes someone happy? Is it the luxury of a privileged few, or can we all be happy? I believe that each of us can be happy if we know the right way to look for it. Well, Jesus shows us how to find that path to happiness in the Beatitudes. That word comes from the Latin Vulgate translation of the Bible, beati, which means happy. In my English Bible, that word is blessed or blessed. Well, one day as Jesus was teaching, a large crowd gathered. He called his disciples to him, and they went up onto a mountain. The people followed, and they listened to his message. And we remember it today as the Sermon on the Mount. Jesus shared a thought-provoking and inspiring message that day. He began his message with the Beatitudes, 8 descriptions of blessed or happy people, 8 ways that his followers then and now can be truly happy. Jesus' words were countercultural then and now. You see, his plan for happiness is counterintuitive for us. Society sends us messages constantly about how to be happy. Have more, buy more, be more, do more, achieve more, and even give more. Those listening on the mountain that day had heard all these messages too. They aren't new, but they aren't accurate either. Jesus began his sermon with 8 ways to be happy, and he began with the foundation. Let's read it in Matthew chapter 5 and verse 3. Here's what it says. Blessed or happy are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the poor in spirit. We are told that happiness comes from more. Jesus tells us that happiness comes from less. To be poor means to lack something, to have less of or little of something. We usually associate that with material things, don't we? Well, here in the first Beatitude, Jesus tells us that happy people are lacking in spirit. Now, he didn't say or mean that happy people are lacking in spirituality. He's talking about how we see ourselves, our true condition. And seeing ourselves as we truly are, well, it isn't always easy. Several years ago now, I was on a work trip with my husband. I'd packed my best clothes, and I was looking forward to spending time with him in a new environment, kid-free. Now, the hotel bathroom had a magnifying mirror attached to one wall. Excited by this fancy feature, I grabbed my makeup bag so that I could get ready, and I turned on the mirror lights. I leaned in, and then I backed away as fast as I could. Had I grown a beard and a mustache? Well, then I remembered I'd let my girls draw on my face the day before. They had drawn a beard like Opa's for me. I thought I'd washed it all off, but nope. There were the faint marks staring me in the face under that bright light. I wetted and soaped up a washcloth, and I scrubbed off that ink beard. And thankfully, it disappeared. But apparently, I hadn't looked at my face close up in a bright light that morning. And when I saw my true condition, I was horrified. Now, Jesus didn't care about my ink beard or not. I mean, that was immaterial to him. But he does care that each of us sees ourselves as we really are. That's the first step to happiness. To be poor in spirit is to be humble, to look at our hearts and recognize and acknowledge who we really are. We are all fallible humans in need of a Savior. When I look at myself and recognize that I am poor in spirit, that's when true happiness can begin. When in humility we acknowledge our finite and flawed condition, then we're open for the blessing. In humility, the poor in spirit empty themselves of all of the more that we are enculturated to believe will make us happy. When we empty ourselves of the need to have more, buy more, be more, do more, achieve more, and give more, we have room for something else. When we let go of our human strivings for happiness, then true happiness can begin. Emptied of self, we now have room for Jesus. His greatness and majesty can fill and work in our lives. When we are poor in our own striving for happiness, He takes over. In our humility, we evict the pride from our hearts. Our humble spirits make way for Jesus' softening grace, His love and kindness to take root. One of my favorite authors put it this way, quote, "He who feels whole, who thinks that he is reasonably good and is contented with his condition, does not seek to become a partaker of the grace and righteousness of Christ. Pride feels no need, and so it closes the heart against Christ and the infinite blessings He came to give." End quote. Jesus begins His Sermon on the Mount and begins the Beatitudes with the foundational way that we can be happy, to humbly look at our own hearts and admit our condition. This makes room for His plan for happiness. Jesus said, "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are the humble." And that's a promise for us today. Humility is the foundation of happiness. It can't be built on anything else. Jesus came to earth to show us a path to happiness in our day-to-day lives here and now. But wait, there's more. There's a second part of that verse too. It says, "Theirs is the kingdom of heaven." Happiness here holds the promise of eternal happiness with Him in His kingdom. Happiness can feel elusive. It can feel like it's the privilege of just the fortunate few on this earth, those who have more than we do, achieve more, and even give more. But Jesus shows us a different reality. Happiness is a privilege, but one available to each of us, and it starts with humility, seeing our total dependence on Him. Taking that first step to happiness won't be easy, but it will be worth it for eternity.